Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. Before we get going, I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone for their support thus far. The numbers of watches on the videos have actually been pretty healthy, given, relatively speaking, the size of my channel and the number of subscribers that I have. So genuinely, thank you to everyone who's been watching the videos so far. If you do enjoy this video, then it'd be awesome if you could hit that sub button, like the video, and ding that notification bell for updates on future videos. And of course, if you don't like the video, hit that dislike button. But do let me know in the comments below why you didn't like it. Is it something I can work on? Is it an editing issue? Etc, etc. Now, into today's video, and anyone that knows me will know that I'm a bit of a petrol head. Now, sadly, I've yet to actually do any racing content on the channel, but some news dropped this week on Monday that warrants my attention, and those like me who are into racing, and in particular, Formula 1. A few years ago, Frontier, the team behind the management simulation games of Jurassic World Evolution and Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo, all fantastic games in their own right, these guys got the official Formula 1 license to start making Formula 1 management games. I believe it was a multi-year license to include like 3 F1 manager games, like yearly releases type approach. I don't know if they're yearly releases, I'm just guessing at this point, but ultimately we didn't hear anything for probably 2 years. I think it was 2018 that the license dropped, I think, or the news of the license came in. But since that release, we got absolutely no news, not a single shred of anything until a few months ago, when a small snippet of information came out during some kind of like financial update that the company gave, where they basically said that the F1 Manager game would release this year in Q2. Now, at the time, I didn't know whether that was Q2 in the financial year or whether that was Q2 in the actual year. So, for example, if Q2 financial year would mean summer, or Q2 in the actual calendar year would potentially mean spring. Then on Monday, 7th of March, we finally got the news we'd all been waiting for. A full announcement and reveal trailer for Formula 1 Manager 2022. And to say I'm excited about this is somewhat of an understatement. So what we'll do first, we're going to take a quick look at this trailer, and yeah, let's see what's what.
Peggy 12.
This is a sport like no other.
Okay, hearing
Countless
some
hours of planning and preparation have brought you here.
I'm hearing some radio, real-life radio messages.
Tuned to perfection. Your drivers and crew have practiced relentlessly. They are focused, synchronized, ready for your lead. And from the moment the lights go out, the decisions you make, the risks you take, this is what gets your team to the podium. Do you have what it takes to win?
Ooh, that sounds like a bit like the Valorant theme song there. Right, okay, so let's just rewind then. Let's just take a couple of looks. There's a couple of things immediately that I pick up before I sort of take a step away. Let's just have a look at this. So first of all, Formula 1 licensed product, Formula 2 and Formula 3. Now I wonder, does that therefore mean that we're going to get the ability to play as those teams, or whether they would just be sort of those races happening in the background, and perhaps there's, you can pick up the drivers and the staff or something like that? Having some kind of, build your own team from Formula 3 and take them through developing your cars for the Formula 2 and then into Formula 1 would be pretty awesome, but I'd be kind of surprised if they went down that road with their first iteration of this game. I mean, there were multiple moments of audio chatter that we heard there. I'm pretty sure I heard Christian Horner, I definitely heard James Allison, and I think I heard Leclerc and maybe even Hamilton as well during that trailer. So I wonder if will we get real lines of dialogue in the actual game from the staff members of the teams, the actual drivers themselves, or whether that was just put in for the purposes of this trailer. I don't know. It would be really cool. I mean, I suspect they are going to double down a little bit on the broadcasting aspect of this and trying to make it as authentic as possible. So potentially, yeah, we could get some real lines of dialogue from the years gone by in the game. Now, graphically, we get a couple of shots of the car, don't we? I mean, let me just mute this and we just run this through. So, if this is what the game is going to look like, I mean, we've zoomed in a long way there. I mean, I'm very, very pleased if that's going to be the sort of graphic detail that we're getting. I mean, it's a shame that they've not picked a slightly brighter, sunnier day, and looking at the track here, it's difficult to tell. That kind of looks like Paul Ricard. It looks like the big long straight of Paul Ricard. I can't remember what the name of the straight is, but that sort of looks roughly what that straight might be. It might be somewhere else. But anyway, I mean, the detail looks really, really good. So yeah, that's a definite tick in the box for the actual game engine itself. So those were the couple of things that I kind of picked out from the trailer. It was fairly limited, which I didn't want to happen, but I think we all knew was probably going to happen, where, you know, we were just going to see a bit of a cinematic trailer, some sort of pre-rendered footage, that sort of thing. But ultimately, it whets the appetite, right? So that's pretty cool. Let's go back now to the actual website then, and let's see if we can pick out some more information on this. And straight away, we can see that this is coming to console. So it's Steam and Epic, as you might expect, but we're also going to get PS5 and PS4, and then Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One. So we're getting current and last gen releases. No Nintendo Switch, which doesn't massively surprise me. I think this might be a bit too demanding for the Switch, but then we've also seen Frontier release Planet Coaster on the Nintendo Switch, I believe, a little bit after, you know, a few years down the line. So maybe we might see future iterations of the F1 Manager series coming to Switch at some point. Maybe they just wanted to get this out, get the ball rolling with the series, if you like, and then maybe they'll look at the Switch a little bit further down the line. I think, though, that the decision to go onto console is huge. I mean, anybody that's a PC racing fan will probably know of a game called Motorsport Manager that released way back in, I think, 2016 now. And I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favourite games, and there's a few things that kind of held it back from really taking off. Maybe official licenses was a bit of a thing. I mean, you could mod it so that it gets rid of that. And unfortunately, for various reasons, they never made a sequel. And I feel like had they have targeted that game to come out on console as well, perhaps that might have pushed them down the road of a sequel if they could have had that extra revenue stream from console, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. So as we flick down here then, drive every decision, make your mark on Formula 1 in the official licensed F1 Manager 2022. Choose your team and be the boss with unparalleled authenticity and broadcast quality presentation. So yeah, I already said I think that they are going to double down on this. I really do think that to make an F1 experience kind of extra authentic, you're going to need to pull out all the stops. Now, I've already seen on Twitter that people like David Croft, Karun Chandok, Martin Brundle? Might have been Karun Chandok and David Croft. They're already talking about this game online. They're tweeting about it. So clearly there is a level of cooperation, if you like, from people within the Formula 1 world that they're helping to push and advertise this game. And I think that in order to get that level of authenticity, I think you're going to need those big personalities from the Formula 1 world, you know, the David Cross, the Martin Brundles, the Damon Hills, the David Coulthards, sorry, as I hit the mic there, the David Coulthards, trying to think, Ted Kravitz maybe down in the pits, those sorts of people. You know, you get those in and you get the dialogue lines correct and right, and it's going to ramp up that feeling of authenticity. At the same time, though, if whatever lines they do bring into the game, if they're badly delivered and badly timed, it can actually have the opposite effect. So they do need to tread a little carefully with that, but I'm still very excited to see what they come up with. So let's keep going down then. We talked about the authenticity. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move on to the news section here, where we can actually go into the official announcement of the game, and we can just sort of run through some of the stuff in here. I am reading this for the first time, by the way, so if it sounds like this is pre-recorded, there's one or two elements that were the start. I had already seen the trailer when I showed it to you, but I'm actually looking at this for the first time because I wanted a bit of a live reaction to it. So let's go into detail here. So we are excited to reveal a brand new official management game. Yes, we know. Launching this summer. Okay, so Q2 means this summer, which is really cool. PC, PlayStation, Xbox. Challenge you to play a pivotal role in the paddock of the world's most exhilarating motorsport. Become the team principal of any of the 10 teams. Okay, so that answers that then. So it's Formula 1 management only, so you can't manage the Formula 2 and Formula 3 teams. Compete on the official circuits over multiple years, hire real-world drivers and engineers, expand your HQ, and build the next dominant force in Formula 1. It's all in your control. Drive at every decision. That's I've seen that tagline used a few times, so I suspect that's kind of going to be the advertising tagline that they're going to roll with going forward. Right, so so this is just talking about the sort of experience that these guys have, and if anybody has played any of their management sims, Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, they are damn good games. So I do have a real level of confidence in these guys that they're going to produce something really good. I just hope they're not hamstrung by the Formula 1 license. The Jurassic World Evolution series was hamstrung a little. We didn't see the level of customization and the level of creative freedom in Jurassic World Evolution that we saw in Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo, and I suspect that was probably because of the license that they purchased from Universal. So let's hope that there is going to be some level of customization and freedom with this game, and that the F1 license isn't going to hold it back from that side of things. So handle the day-to-day running of an F1 team, overseeing long-term strategies and making split-second decisions to guide your crew to victory. Sponsorships, regulation changes and more. Navigate these challenges, then come the race weekend, create and execute the perfect strategy for success. So it really does. I mean, Motorsport Manager, going back to the other game, that did allow you to pretty much manage everything within the team, from your HQ to the parts on the car, to the development of new parts, the liveries, the handling of staff, the reserve drivers, literally everything that you could do on that game. Looks like they're going to be bringing a lot of that into this as well. I have also seen that one of the senior developers on this game actually worked on that Motorsport Manager game. So I'm hoping that if that level of love, if you like, in developing the game that they clearly had when they made Motorsport Manager, I'm hoping that's going to transcend across onto this game. So they're telling us they're going to share plenty more information. I hope that's the case. We've not really got long, because a summer release, I mean, that could be as little as less than 3 months away. I mean, summer is, I think the official first day of summer is, I think, something like the midway through June, I think. So it could be June, it could be August, but either way, that means it's minimum 3 months, maximum 5 months away, which is damn exciting, if you ask me. Right then, so into some of the modes then. So career, become the best. Write your own chapter in the new era of Formula 1. Become the team principal of an F1 team and steer them to glory through the 2022 FIA Formula 1 World Championship. I wonder, does that mean, the way they said that, it can't just be a 1 year thing. They must allow you to do multi-year, surely. Will you take control of a top outfit and instantly compete for race wins, or manage a team further down the field and guide them up the grid? Keep the board happy by setting season targets and long-term goals. That must mean you're doing multi-year careers. Support and develop your contracted drivers or scout and hire drivers from the official F1, F2 and F3 lineups. There you go. So F2 and F3 is just going to be driver. It's going to be a driver roster from those two racing series. It'd be interesting to see whether those drivers in the background are progressing, and whether there's some kind of sort of progression system in there to allow these drivers to improve and maybe sort of catch the attention of some of the teams, and maybe actually other teams will start to bring in, the computer control teams. Will they start to bring in, the likes of Callum Ilott and Oscar Piastri? I think he's in Formula 2 still. That'd be quite cool to see some of those guys come through. Build a team in your image, balance the books, make critical decisions, and forge an unforgettable legacy. Okay, the HQ, build your team. Your constructor team is the beating heart of your racing operation. Between races, control every facet of your team from HQ. Monitor the performance of your drivers and staff, all your finances, scout and poach the best in-class staff from rival teams. Upgrade and maintain state-of-the-art facilities such as the wind tunnel or a design centre to see the potential of your team soar. So again, very Motorsport Manager-ish. For those of you that played that, there was an element of that which, the better your HQ was, the more development that you could do on the car, the better quality of the parts you could make. So that's a cool thing. So it does look like we're getting quite a deep management simulation here, which is really, really encouraging. Perfect your car. Get your hands on 2022's bold new car design. Now, I wonder, this is interesting, right? So I mentioned at the start of this video that we hadn't seen anything from Frontier for the 2-3 years since this license was announced, or this partnership was announced. I wonder, had the FIA in real life not pushed back the regulation changes that are now coming in for this year, if they hadn't pushed those back by a year because of COVID, I wonder, would we have seen more news from this game? Would they have tried to get the game ready for F1 Manager 2021 perhaps? I mean, if that's the case, this has kind of worked out quite well for us as gamers, because that in theory means they've had an extra year development time to get this game ready. So that might be a bit of a blessing in disguise. But it does mean that we're going to get the brand new cars, the brand new look and feel of those cars, all the nice new liveries that have come out. So that is really, really cool. Choose your engineering approach to gain advantages on upcoming circuits. Will you develop a well-balanced system, focus on areas needing improvement, or excel in specific aspects of performance? Utilise cutting-edge technology to fine-tune each part, unlocking the full potential of your world-class racing machine and leaving your competition in their dust. I'm very keen to see how they do that. I mean, in the world of Formula 1, it's all about making these minor changes for sort of longer-term gains, you know, that finding a a fraction of a second here and there can make a difference between winning and losing. Or, you know, coming third instead of fourth or whatever. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they do that, because what you don't want to do is get these massive jumps in performance, which suddenly allows you to take a team like Haas, who, let's be honest, we're going to need a multi-year game to get Haas near the front. What we don't want to see is them just suddenly being able to compete right at the front just because, you know, the game allows you to make these ridiculously good parts fairly early on in the game. So I hope there's a level of realism with that unless there's a, you know, good investment comes into the team and you suddenly manage to poach some really good staff, you know, filling the dots around that narrative. If you suddenly take a team like Haas to the front, there needs to be some narrative around it. You've got to have poached some really good staff, you've got to have some good investment, all that kind of stuff. So let's hope that that's going to be the case and that we're not just going to see Haas racing at the front by the end of the first season. And then the strategy itself, the race, so from lights out to the checkered flag, you're in control. Drive every decision from driver call-outs to pit strategy to tyre choices. Use driver feedback and engineer insight to plan your approach, but be prepared to react to dynamic race events such as safety cars and weather changes. That's interesting, right? So one of the things that Motorsport Manager did, obviously they opted for a bit of a top-down 3D style experience. Obviously there was no real implementation of a crash system, particularly, certainly not cars colliding with each other. You know, you would have, sometimes your car would just veer off and go into the wall, and that would bring a safety car out. So the effect was there in terms of what effect the safety car had on the race, and then what you'd have to do with your strategy as a result of that. But what you didn't have is that when these cars were scrapping alongside each other, there was never really any, unless you put mods in, there was never any true to life representation of when a car races that close together. You know, chances are they're going to touch, or, you know, maybe a wing falls off or something like that. There was very little of that in the game, and with the graphics that they're clearly going for, the in-game graphics, it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not they try and implement any kind of crash system and damage system in this game, because historically a lot of games that use official licenses, whether it be a race series, whether it be official cars with official sponsors, I know for a fact, having talked to one or two people from Project Cars 2, that sponsors frankly don't want to see their cars mangled into walls. So can they get around that? Can they still bring in something that's realistic while still keeping the sponsors happy? So that, excuse me, my voice is going here. That's going to be quite interesting to see whether they can do that, whether they can bring that level of realism into the game. Because I feel they need to, because if you've just got two cars following each other round and round, and then every now and then a car looks to overtake, and it doesn't look realistic the way they overtake. They sort of push each other out of the way, or even clip into each other or something like that. That's going to ruin that immersion. So that could be quite important to the game. It says use important data to make crucial calls that can make or break your race. Always on a razor's edge between crushing defeat and glorious victory. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can add to the Steam wishlist now. They're all over Twitter. Obviously, this is their website as well. I think from memory, they are, I think, at F1 Manager, I think is their Twitter handle from the top of my head. But honestly, everything that I've read so far looks really, really exciting. It looks really, really positive. I'm going to do a secondary video to this where I'm going to talk about my wish list, if you like, for this game and what they can bring into this game and maybe into future games as well, because there's a ton of potential with this game. F1 has had a huge and massive increase in performance, sorry, not performance, an increase in popularity, because of things like the Drive to Survive series, the fact that last year's championship was so close and went down to the wire, even if it ended in very controversial circumstances. You know, there is a real buzz around Formula 1 right now. So releasing in the summer, which is give or take roughly when the new Formula 1 games from Codemasters or EA Codemasters now, that's usually when they come out. So it'll be interesting to see how they tie in that release with this. They are two very different games. They're going to appeal to two very different audiences, but it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this game takes off and how it's reviewed. And please, gaming gods, let it be good. Let this be the start of a really, really cool franchise that we can see for years to come, because we've not had an official F1 manager game. I'm trying to think, was it EA Sports' F1 manager way back in like 2000 or 2002, something like that, and that game was brilliant. I remember playing that when I was younger. So to have not had an official Formula 1 manager game of this style and this quality for the thick end of 20 years is quite surprising, actually. But let's hope that these guys can develop it and fill that gap and fill that void. So yeah, that's my honest opinion and feedback. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that this is going to be a hit? Do you think that this is going to flop? Let me know what you think, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.